Well, it all comes down to this. 9 games left. 9 games that will determine a lot. Not only whether the Yankees win the first or second wildcard spot, or whether they miss the playoffs at all despite a $200+ million payroll, but how the team plays between now and October 3rd could determine whether or not there's a new manager next year, possibly even a new general manager for the first time in over 20 years. There could be a new shortstop, a new first baseman, a new catcher next year, maybe even a new center fielder, depending on how Aaron Hicks heals up. But for now, it's on this group. It's on these men to get it done, and there is a 9-game gauntlet that they need to run. They entered spring training with the swagger of a team that knew they were considered championship contenders, but after a 5-11 start, it became clear that the team was not rolling over opponents the way most people thought they should. Instead, they rolled over ground ball after ground ball, leading the league in double plays. They made base running errors. Everybody on the team practically struggled at some point. They stopped hitting home runs at the pace they had maintained in recent years. Were too many teams throwing spider tack against them? It's possible, but you can't blame that for all of their troubles. They lacked the obvious electric power up and down the lineup of a team like the Blue Jays. They lacked the fundamentals of a team like the Red Sox. They lacked the versatility and relentlessness of a team like the Rays. There were obvious managerial mistakes. There was a lack of consistent defense. There was a ton of base running blunders. It became obvious that the Yankees needed to adjust the roster. And Brian Cashman, to his credit, tried to do so. He added Rougned Odor, a one-time top prospect who was the youngest player in the major leagues and had some good years, but never really became the hitter that people thought he was going to be. He acquired Tim LeCastro, a speedy outfielder known for, quote, stealing first base, who was a great defensive player, but he got injured almost immediately and went down with a season-ending knee surgery. He added Clay Holmes and Joely Rodriguez, both of whom have complemented an overworked bullpen. He added Wandy Peralta, who's done a nice job. He added left-handed power at the deadline, Joey Gallo and Anthony Rizzo. Gallo got off to a rough start but has picked it up lately. More on that in a minute. Rizzo got off to a hot start but has settled into steady, if not spectacular, in recent weeks. The man Rizzo replaced, Luke Voit, has had a tough time cracking the lineup, but has provided his usual thump when he's able to get consistent at bats. Though usually his steady buildup is interrupted by more bench time, inevitably cooling him off. A 13-game win streak brought hope, but a stretch of 20 poor games that followed sent casual and diehard fans into another bout with frustration. After being blown out twice in a row, at home by the Cleveland Indians, who've been no-hit 3 times this year, it seemed like the Yankees were ready to wave the white flag and mail in the final, most crucial part of their schedule, going out not with a bang, but with a whimper. However, after sweeping the Texas Rangers, the Yankees have put themselves back into playoff position. Now, they have a gauntlet. 9 games to end the season. 3 versus the Red Sox, 3 versus the Blue Jays, and 3 versus the Rays. If the Yankees do make the playoffs, they'll face either the Red Sox or Blue Jays, possibly on the road, before facing off with the Rays. It's time for the silly lineup games to be over. It's time to put your biggest bats in the lineup, your best arms on the mound, and let the chips fall where they may. And if you end up being good enough to make the playoffs, it's a crapshoot, and anything can happen. We've seen the Cardinals win the World Series with 83 wins. We've seen the Yankees win the World Series with 87 wins in 2000. It can be done. Derek Jeter famously once said, "It's not the best team that wins in October. It's the hottest." The Yankees have rotated between ice cold and red hot in almost cyclical fashion with the moon phases this year. But with 3 straight wins and 9 left to play, can they get hot at the right time? The Yankees begin this gauntlet with their ace on the mound, Gerrit Cole. On the season, he is 15-8, 15 wins, leads the American League. 8 losses, more than you would hope. Most he's had since 2017, but you got to blame some of that on a lack of run support. He's been a little bit up and down at times, but he's been mostly fantastic. 169 and a third innings, 231 strikeouts. He's got 2 complete games. He has that 1 shutout against Houston. He's made 28 starts. He was an all-star. He's got a fantastic whip of 1.033, which means he allows just a hair over a base runner per inning. 1.033 was the exact whip that he had in 2018 when he was 15-5 with a 2.88 ERA with the Astros. He finished 5th in the Cy Young voting that year. It's been under 1 the last 2 years, and it was under 1 for most of this season, but he got kind of shelled in his last outing. He gave up a season-high 7 earned runs. He's done that twice. He did it against Tampa Bay on July 29th. He has not pitched well against Boston on the road this year. On June 27th, he went 5 innings. He gave up 8 hits, 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Gave up 3 home runs in that game. It raised his ERA from 2.33 to 2.66 at the time. And on July 23rd, he went 5 innings, gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. Cole took losses in both of those games. He needs to show up against the Red Sox tonight. We need to see the Gerrit Cole that pitched just before the All-Star break against Houston. Now, I'm not saying he needs to throw a shutout. That game, he went 9 innings, threw 129 pitches. You remember he refused to come off the mound late in the game, gave up just 3 hits, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts. That was his gem of the season, but we don't need that tonight. We need him to give us 7 innings, 1 or 2 runs, and let the offense go to work. Nate Eovaldi will be on the mound for Boston. Yankees have faced him a number of times this year. On June 4th, he pitched 6 innings of 1 earned run baseball, did allow 8 hits. The Yankees lost that game 5-2. He then pitched against them at Yankee Stadium on June 26th. He went 7 2/3 innings, gave up just 1 earned run. And then on July 24th, he went 7 2/3 innings, gave up 2 earned runs. And then he pitched against the Yankees on August 17th in Game 2 of a doubleheader. Gave up 2 runs in 5 innings, 7 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. He's been very solid, and he keeps the ball in the ballpark. So the Yankees need to think small. They need to think base hits. They need to think executing against the shift. They need to think moving runners, swiping bags. They need to work. This is one of those games where the 3-run home run is probably not going to save you. You've got to figure out ways to score runs without it tonight. My X factor for this series is Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres is not having a great year either offensively or defensively. But over his last 40 games, he's actually been swinging the bat pretty well. He's got a .298 batting average over that stretch, a .350 on-base percentage, a .355 batting average on balls in play. Now, he's not hitting for power, just 4 home runs and 18 RBIs. But we just mentioned that Nathan Eovaldi is not a guy who gives up a ton of home runs anyway. So something to watch for is Gleyber Torres' approach at the plate. I've felt like at times this year he's gotten a little big. You see him taking the big home run cuts. And if you ask any old ball player, they'll tell you it's really hard to hit home runs when you're trying to hit home runs. We've talked about it at length, that he falls off of balance after his swings. That's just because he's swinging too hard. If he stays within himself and takes the approach of a contact hitter this weekend, I mean, we saw the other night what he can do. He can spray the ball all over the ballpark. He can pick you up big hits with runners in scoring position. And you know that he wants to kind of change the way that people are talking about him, change the narrative. He very well could be playing for his Yankees future. I know he sees the comments on Twitter and all of the message boards and stuff like that. Gleyber Torres is a young guy. He's plugged in. He sees what people are saying about him. He's probably heard what I've said about him. So in the event that he's listening, here's my message to Gleyber. Just stay within yourself. Don't try and do too much. If you come up with runners on base, don't try and hit the 3-run home run. Try and pick up a base hit. In order to win this series, the Yankees are going to need rallies. They can't rely on the long ball. They haven't hit enough long balls this year to rely on the long ball. You're going to have to play some solid baseball. Harold Reynolds had a great piece on MLB Network. I tweeted it. It was on Reddit. And then John Boy did a follow-up on it about Joey Gallo's adjustments at the plate. So when Joey Gallo first got to the Yankees, he was doing what he did in Texas, which was standing far off of the plate and daring them to pitch him inside so that he could drill it to right field. What Harold Reynolds was able to demonstrate is that in recent weeks, Joey Gallo has moved up on the plate, a similar approach that's been taken by Anthony Rizzo. You figure playing in Yankee Stadium, if you get a pitch inside, you've got a chance to pull it over the right field wall. So as a lefty in Yankee Stadium, why not turn as much of the plate into inside as possible? So he's really creeped up on the plate. Now, that can cause issues. If you come inside on Joey Gallo or on Anthony Rizzo, you can cause them to be a little bit quick trying to defend that pitch, and they might hook it foul. So you might see some more foul home runs from Joey Gallo the way you see them from Anthony Rizzo. But if you miss out over the plate at all, he's going to crush you. And now, if you pitch him on the outer half of the plate, his bat can reach it a little better. They showed some interesting overhead footage, and he just was not reaching the outside part of the plate. He thought that he was. You know, he would get up to the plate and he would tap the outer part of the plate with his bat as a way to measure his distance from the plate. But when you're taking your actual swing, your elbows are a little bit bent. And so he was actually not reaching the outer part of the plate. And now he is. And it's coincided with a hot streak, with more singles, with bloop hits like he had the other day. He's able to make more contact because he can cover the entire plate. That might cut down on his strikeouts enough and lead to more singles that he takes that next step. You know, if he's a guy who can hit 250 and still hit you 45 home runs, well, I mean, that's a different guy, especially when you factor in his defense. So I'm really excited about what Joey Gallo is going to do for the Yankees next season if he maintains this approach. And with these 9 games left on the Gauntlet, ESPN is going to air a lot of them. And one thing of note is that Aaron Judge seems to get really up for nationally televised games, like the Field of Dreams game. You know, he's had some great Sunday night games against the Red Sox. I think Aaron Judge could be the other X factor in this series. Overall, Judge having a very nice year. 287 average, 36 home runs, 89 ribbies, 146 OPS plus, 908 OPS, on-base percentage of 371. I expected that his on-base percentage would probably be over 400. I'm not going to complain about 371, though. In September, it's worth noting that Aaron Judge is batting just .222 with a .276 on-base percentage. But he does have 7 home runs and 15 ribbies in 21 games. Given his overall output this season, I think that he's getting ready to go on a serious hot streak down the stretch here. Would not surprise me if he gets to 40 home runs. He's only 4 away. He's 11 RBIs away from 100. I think there's a good chance that he hits 4 home runs in the next 9 games, especially with a few games in Boston, that close left field wall. I mean, not that any ballpark can really constrain Aaron Judge when he's swinging the bat. Anyway, he had clearly cooled off earlier this month, but he's showing some signs of life. He had consecutive 2-hit games against the Rangers before going 0 for 3 in the final game. And he generally doesn't stay cold for too long. You don't expect him to hit in the 220s for an entire month. So while a lot of people don't believe in due or don't believe in the law of average, I think he's going to even it out. I think he's going to hit, 260, 280 for the month. And if he does that, that means that he's got to hit well over 300 the rest of the way. And when he's getting hits and putting the ball in play, it means a lot of home runs. So I think that Aaron Judge is probably going to have a pretty good 9 games, and he would be another pick as an X factor for this weekend. We'll see how it works out. I'll be back with recaps after each of the 3 games. 9 to go.